When you think of sustainability, a floating home might not be the first thing that pops into your mind, especially with mega yachts owned by billionaires being the epitome of indulgence and waste. But some of the most ancient and connected ways of living are sea-living people, using the wind to travel, barter systems as worldwide currencies, creating your own clean drinking water, catching your own dinner. There are nuances in everything, and I promise you the billionaire mega yachts don't hang up their toilet paper to dry on the line. This is an exploration of how living on the sea can mean treading lightly, having a positive impact, and living simply. My name is Jolie. I've been on board Green Coco's boat, Nesi, so far for the last month and a half, as the homeschool teacher for Kristian and Sabrina's 4-year-old twins, Kaiana and Naiyah.
Are you going to put them back
We're at the beginning of a world-schooling expedition, starting off in the Seychelles, converting a charter boat into a cruising home as we go. The goal for being off-grid, but it's a bit tricky to plant a forest at sea, so how does that look living on a boat?
So I think for me, it's off-grid is like a spectrum of your independence and your freedom. You're always going to be connected with others on the grid, whether it's electrical grid or whether it's if you're a social grid. So for me, it's the one example of being off-grid and that independence that I really love from it was actually when one of the COVID waves hit. We were able to provision the boat and sail to a remote atoll, and for 3 weeks we didn't know what was happening in the outside world, and we could have been there 3, 4, 5 months. We had everything we needed, and so that felt amazing to be independent, self-reliant, I think for several months on end, and that just gives you a lot of breathing room, as opposed to people that are fully on the grid. If the power goes out, you immediately feel it, and they're already like having issues. You know, their freezer goes out like after 2 hours, the food starts thawing.
You use the wind to sail, but you also rely on fuel. And this boat was set up as a charter boat, and you're living on it, which is a little bit different, and making changes so that that's more viable.
Take it from a boat that lives on the dock, it's always plugged in, to basically being an off-grid boat. And we need to shift it towards solar power and energy efficiency.
To transform a boat that's used to being plugged in at the dock to the vessel needed for this adventure, a frame and solar panels were installed at the stern.
Oh, hello!
The solar panels are also vital for making fresh water from seawater, for drinking, cooking and washing, as well as systems that catch fresh water when it rains.
So you use the water maker for drinking water and the washing machine too. What is the process of the water maker?
The water maker is a pretty cool machine that essentially pressurizes salt water through all these different filters and membranes. And it gets super, super pressurized to push through these very, very, very tight membranes that remove all the impurities, salt, everything. So at this, you start with salty ocean water, and you end with a glass of pure drinking fresh water as it passes through this machine.
Usually, water makers use the generator as a source for 220 volt power to run that big a machine, especially if you're generating a lot of power. If it's a small water maker, you can also use your hand and it makes like a liter every couple minutes or so forth. But for large production, they usually use a generator, and the goal is to be able to move away to be able to use just your solar power and batteries to make water. What's that?
No problem.
From Seychelles, we made the 700 nautical mile crossing to Madagascar. Where we've seen off-grid and self-sustainability in the most impressive ways. It's here in Madagascar that the mission towards solar independence continues, adding more panels onto the roof.
All right. batteries for the boat. Long time coming. They've been pretty shot. I'm on the tuk-tuk.
Now that the new gear is on board, it needs to be incorporated into the existing system. Whoa.
Alright, we are in the machine room. Here's the water maker, is part of it. Kind of how it works is the water is coming through the salt water from the ocean through this valve, and it comes up through the filters, which, as you can see, need cleaning and replacement right now. They're quite dirty. And then they go through a high pressure pump, which is this big machine here, and then through this membrane. So these three long tubes are the membranes, the big filters that filter it up. So now we'll turn it on. We need the generator right now to use the water maker. It relies on the generator. So eventually I want to put right here where the shelves are. That will be our new water maker that will run on the solar power system.
Wicked.
Go here and fire it up. Kind of pressurizes. This is the pressure from the low pressure pump. And then now I build up the pressure, and then it builds up the pressure on the high pressure pump. Up to 40. This is a little indicator. Once it's producing water, it will start showing. See that? So this is how much flow. This is like a high output water maker.
Yep.
At almost 200 liters per hour. Fresh water.
Not relying on the grid provides freedom. Self-sufficiency in water production is just one step of many on the journey of converting this boat to be self-reliant and ready for anything.